a new book called Christianity and World Religions, an introduction to the world's major faiths. And he joins us now. Derek, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thanks for the invitation to be on the show.
You're not on the run, are you?
I'm not. Well, I am from Texas, and I am now living in the Northeast, so that might be somewhat equivalent. But
well, tell us what you do first professionally, and then we want to get into this in this book.
Sure. I am a professor at a school called Biblical Seminary, which is outside of Philadelphia, and we train future Christian pastors and missionaries and Christian leaders. And I teach world Christian history and world religions, and also am the director of the Doctor of Ministry program. And been living in this area for about 12 years, originally from Texas, and enjoy doing research on these topics and exploring them. And most recently wrote a book called Christianity and World Religions, which you mentioned.
This book, Christianity and World Religions, that's the name of the book, An Introduction to the World's Major Faiths. What are the world's major faiths?
Well, saying world religions, the major world religions, probably would include Hinduism, Buddhism, Confucianism and Taoism, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity.
So there's like 7.
Mm-hmm.
Well, is Confucianism, and now there used to be, I thought it was Taoism. I know in your book it's Taoism. Is that just a product of Westerners mispronouncing Eastern words or something, or is that a different religion?
It's the same. It's exactly it. The difficulty is moving from Chinese into English. So there's a letter that some would pronounce more like a D, some more like a T. So it depends on which system you use if you spell it with a T or a D, but it's the same one, Taoism.
Okay.
Hey, if you look at the map, if you look at the globe, and you say, okay, what religions are dominant, in different regions of the world or different continents, you would look at North America, Christianity, whether that's Catholic or Protestant. Well, I guess all of
Eastern Orthodox,
Central South America, as well as North America. I mean, all the Americas would be
Christian.
Would be dominant Christian, right? By that I mean they're the majority religion.
Correct.
Okay, as you move over to Africa, what do you got there?
Well, what you have in Africa, basically the cutting off point is around the equator, and all of the countries in northern Africa are Muslim. And the countries that are the Arab countries in the northern parts of Africa are pretty much almost exclusively Muslim. They'd have a few underground Christian groups, but it would be between 97, 99% Muslim. As you start moving down, you'll hit places like Chad and the Central African Republic, and Nigeria represents it pretty well because the 50% of Nigeria is Muslim, and they all live in the north, and then the other 50% is Christian, and they all live in the southern part. And so as you move down into southern parts, Central Africa, it becomes overwhelmingly Christian.
Okay. Is that because of Christian missionaries that have come from Europe and the U.S.?
That's exactly. So beginning in the 15th century, the Europeans began descending upon Africa, and basically around 1884, there was a conference, famous conference in Berlin, and that's when the European powers carved up Africa into basically what it is today. So the Germans and the Belgians, the French, the Spanish, and the Portuguese. And then basically the late 19th century and then the early 20th century and mid-20th century is when a lot of the Catholic and Protestant missionaries entered Africa. And that's why today in Middle Africa and Southern Africa, it's overwhelmingly Christian because of those missionaries.
Real quickly, Europe Christian. I know Europe today is more secular than it is anything, but the history of Europe is Christianity. What about and then you get into, of course, Israel will be Judaism, but then you get into that, what's called the East, if you will, Asia. That Middle East is dominated by Islam. Indonesia, Southeast Asia, dominated by Islam. But then give us what about China, Japan, Korea, those countries?
Mm-hmm. Well, China has had Christians there from the 7th century, so we have some documents from around 635 Christians had made their way into China, into the capital of the empire. And it lasted there for a few decades, but then eventually it was pretty much quelched, and then it came in different stages again. But China is booming with Christianity, but when you are a Christian church in China, you can basically decide to be underground or to be legal. And so our numbers are not precise because we can't determine all of the Christian churches there, whether they're house churches or meeting publicly. But Christianity is growing, and a lot of the Christians there's Catholic Christians. There's also lots of Protestants and lots of different types of Protestants there. In Japan has had an extremely difficult time historically there. It's about 1% Christian, and beginning in probably earlier, but in the 17th century, Christianity made its way, Catholic Christianity, and it had a very difficult time, and the Japanese never really
What are the Japanese religiously? Are they just nothing? Are they are they into another
ancestor worship,
yeah.
or what
is their religion?
Yeah, well, for the Japanese, I think most people today would be essentially secular, but there would also be Buddhist influence there, and Confucianism, which is, it's arguable whether it's religion, but it's certainly a worldview, and they would be thinking that way. So Confucianism is all about relationships and hierarchy and rights and things like that. So they'd have kind of a Confucianist mentality and also Buddhist in a way and secular. So kind of all mixed together. And then Japan also has an indigenous religion, but it's more of animism, spiritism. So all of those things are kind of mixed together.
Yeah, they also have fried rice, which is an excellent export. What about Korea? South Korea, of course, Korea's divided, has been, but South Korea per capita has probably as high a percentage of Christians as maybe the U.S. I don't know. Tell me.
Yeah, it'd have lower than America, but it has a growing Christian population, and Christian mission started there first in 1784 is when Catholics arrived, and then a century later in 1884 is when the Protestants and specifically the Presbyterians arrived. So a lot of Christians in Korea are either Catholic or they're Presbyterian. There's dozens of different Presbyterian denominations. So I think the numbers are around 30% Christian, and then the other part would be kind of a mixture of more indigenous religions, and then the other part would be secular. So, the younger kids there are, I think, pretty secular, but Christianity is very influential. The former president was a Christian. Now the new president is an atheist.
Of South Korea.
Of South Korea. Talking
to Derek Cooper. His book is called Christianity and World Religions. Fascinating book, an introduction to the world's major faiths. Where do you get? Do you have a website, or where do you get in touch with you, and where do you get the book?
Well, you can get the book on, I think PRP Books would have the book. So it's published by P&R Books, which is called Presbyterian and Reformed Publishing. And so that would be one easy way to get the book.
Okay.
And your website?
I have a website at biblical.edu. And so that would be Biblical Seminary, so biblical.edu.
And we're talking
to my faculty page.
Derek Cooper, who's a professor of biblical studies and historical theology at Biblical Seminary in Hatfield, Pennsylvania. I want to ask you this is kind of a tongue-in-cheek question, and this is, obviously you put a lot of serious work into this, but we were talking earlier in the program when we were letting people know who's going to be on later on. Isn't it true, Tim thought I was kidding, but isn't it true that in the UK there is actually, or at least has been, a serious interest in being Jedi Knights? I mean, this whole thing with the Star Wars and the Force, and early on when the movies were much more popular, it seemed like I remember reading that there was actually a fair number of people who were studying this as an actual religion. Is that true?
It could be. That's not in the book, so I of course know nothing about it.
So you know nothing about what it takes to become a real Jedi Knight, do you, Derek?
I do not. Yeah, growing up as a kid, I don't even think I saw Star Wars until I was married. So
yeah. Well,
Nah.
the last three movies, you weren't missing anything. I don't even think I saw the last one. I got tired of all the, frankly, I got tired of all the religious, mumbo jumbo that they put in there. But let me ask you this, a more serious question. The influence of Eastern religion in the United States and in the West, and that does include ideas like, that were in Star Wars. But you hear a lot about and I'm probably mispronouncing this, but the chi, that it's almost, people treat it as being a serious reality, even apart from the religion. The way you organize your furniture, all these Eastern ideas. Eastern religions have made quite an impact in the United States, haven't they?
They have, and I think we're only going to see, actually I know we're only going to see increases in that. So Hinduism and Buddhism, those two religions in particular, have really influenced a lot of Americans, and think of movie stars, people who have a lot of influence, even people like Oprah, who has incredible amount of influence, who, they're influenced by some of these ideas. But what they do is they take some of the philosophy of these religions, but they don't take any of the religious aspects of it. So they just kind of pick and choose different aspects of these religions, and they use them to really influence a lot of Americans.
No. Why is that? I mean, Christianity was the foundational religion of this country. So people who want some sort of religious faith or some sort of philosophical
Atheism
glue.
is just not cool.
Yeah, so
you got to believe in something, man.
So why not pick Christianity? What is it about these Eastern religions that makes them attractive? Is it just the simple, I want to be spiritual but not religious? I mean, what's the reason for this? Do you know?
Yeah, I think that there's just a general move away from Christianity, and it's by certain people in America and other places too in the West, because they see it as repressive, and they see it as the dominant religion that's violent, and so much of the world is bad because of it, and so they're attracted to new ideas, and it's just something that's new. And
Don't you think you just mentioned repressive, okay? Yeah, it's repressive. Christianity represses sin, and that's the whole idea.
People don't like that, though.
People don't. That's what I'm saying. May I answer the question?
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead, Professor.
Well, that Derek answered. Dr. Derek Cooper, our guest. Why? Your question is why are these Eastern religions sort of being more attractive to Americans today than Christianity?
Christianity, yeah.
And so we've seen the rise of the New Age movement, which is Eastern mysticism packaged in Western,
garb.
But I do think that it has to do. People don't like to view themselves as sinners.
Right.
That's a negative.
Strikes your pride.
That's a negative thing. Yeah. So don't and they don't like to be bogged down with all these morals you have to obey. Yeah. And all these 10 Commandment things you're telling me I have to live by. I don't want all that. I don't want all that stuff, man. I want to do what I want to do. Okay. Right. I want to live how I want to live. I don't need you to judge me.
And Eastern religion helps you do that.
Yes. Eastern religions allow you to live like basically you want to without all the 10 Commandments. Yeah. And repenting of sin, picking up your cross daily, and all that Jesus stuff. Yeah. I could just, I could just be a spiritual person, get in touch with my inner self, and I don't know. After this life, I move on to whatever it is you're progressing up with the life changes. I don't know, Derek. Have I got it?
Yeah. Well, I think, as we all know, Americans are extremely individualistic, right, and we don't like authority. And what just picking and choosing parts of these Eastern religions allows you to do is to be spiritual, which is in, and
that's cool,
not to be religious, which is bad. And so you can just kind of pick and choose. You don't have anyone who's an authority figure telling you,
there you go. You can be
don't
spiritual.
Do this. You can do it yourself.
Mm-hmm. You can be spiritual. Claim to be spiritual. Not have to, but you don't have to obey anything.
Right.
You can choose what you obey.
You choose what you obey.
Right.
You got the best of both worlds right there.
And you get to organize your living room furniture in a way that provides maximum spiritual benefit. What is that called? Is that chi? I mean, what is that?
It's called feng shui.
Oh, yeah.